Captain America: Brave New World is directed by Julius Onah. It's out in theaters this weekend. It is the fourth Captain America movie that we have received in the MCU. It is the first Captain America movie that we've received since Civil War, which I think came out in 2016. Although Civil War was technically an Avengers 2.5 type of movie, but still, Captain America in the title, it still counts. This film stars Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford and Carl Lumbly, and obviously if you guys haven't watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, during the course of that show, Sam Wilson transitioned to becoming the new Captain America, so he is the focus of this movie. Steve Rogers is either old or dead or some combination of the two. After there is an assassination attempt on Harrison Ford, who plays General Thunderbolt Ross. After the assassination attempt, Captain America has to work together with Falcon and other people to try to figure out what is at the root of this conspiracy. While a mysterious enemy manipulates things from the shadows, trying to push two different countries into a war on the eve of a new peace treaty being signed that should be the crowning achievement of the new president's administration. For starters, I thought everybody in the movie, well, okay, I won't say everybody, most everybody was actually pretty damn good in this movie. Harrison Ford at 80, it would have been easy for him to walk into a movie like this and kind of mail it in a little bit. He doesn't mail it in. In fact, he's really good. He displays a lot more emotion than I would have expected, and I appreciate that they tried to give his Thunderbolt Ross a little bit of an arc here. Carl Lumbly, who plays Isaiah Bradley, who if you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you know that he is the original, the OG super soldier. He's actually really good in this movie too, once again displaying the appropriate amount of emotion for a really crazy and wild story that they have made for his character in this movie. I also think this movie incorporated some interesting story elements here. There are parts of this movie that are going to have some political intrigue, and it's going to remind you of like a political thriller like Winter Soldier. There are going to be other elements of this movie that feel like they're making a direct follow-up to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so it feels like it has a lot of connective tissue. And when the movie is more contained and when it focuses more on those smaller, more thriller aspects of the genre, I feel like that's when this movie actually really shines. The action sequences are solid-ish, like at the very least, there are some really good ones. I would say the action scenes are actually mostly well filmed, although there are some elements that keep them from being the best they could be, but they're at the very least going to entertain a lot of people. I honestly thought that Anthony Mackie gave the best performance that he's ever given for Captain America or for Sam Wilson ever. Like, I feel like this is his best that he's ever had to offer in the MCU. If you're looking for a movie to really capture what makes Captain America Captain America, more importantly, if you're looking for a reason to believe and root for Sam Wilson as Cap, I feel like this movie gives you all of those reasons and more. The way that he carries himself, his presence in this movie, his character, the way that he is able to lead by example in a lot of different ways, the empathy that he's able to show throughout this movie. If you had any doubts about who should be the leader of the Avengers going forward after this, I feel like this movie should put all of that shit to rest. Anthony Mackie is not always given a lot of great material to work with in this movie, but I will say I appreciated the fact that his Captain America is so likable and so easy to root for. You add that to a pretty underrated musical score. Like, I thought the musical score was popping in a lot of different scenes in this movie. Overall, you've got some solid action. You've got the solid backdrop of a solid movie. Like, everything about this movie screams solid. Having said that, the movie screams solid. The actual execution of the movie is maybe a little bit less than. I'm sure you guys have noticed that every time I'm talking about movies, I'm always talking about the visual style of the movie. I'm talking about the cinematography, talking about the shot selection, you know, the different techniques they use to make the movie look good. I am sure it has not escaped your notice that I have not said a damn thing about the cinematography in this movie, and that's because, well, visually speaking, this movie was a bit of a mixed bag. Are there some good shots scattered throughout the movie? Of course there are. Like, there are professionals that are still working on these movies. There's gonna be a few good moments of, holy shit, that actually looks really gorgeous there. Unfortunately, this movie's visually a mixed bag because there are some really inexcusably bad moments of green screen that are way too obvious for a big budget movie like this. I found myself wondering throughout the entire movie, like, why is the green screen so bad? Why does this shot not look convincing? Why is the CGI in some scenes look unfinished, and then in other scenes it's kind of like, oh yeah, that looks like typical MCU CGI. You just can't help but feel like they did not put a full effort into making the visuals of this movie pop the way that they should have. I know about the plot leaks, and I know about the extensive reshoots that were reported. I know that some people have come out and disputed that. I'm not here to talk about that shit. What I am gonna say is that in a movie like this, you can tell when certain things were edited, you can tell when things were reshot, and it sticks out like a very sore thumb in a movie visually like this. I think the bigger problem with this movie is that this movie feels like it has a split focus all the way around. It's a movie that wants to be a sequel to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's a movie that's trying to be intriguing politically like the Winter Soldier. Then I also feel like this movie's trying to be 110% a sequel to the Incredible Hulk, and unfortunately, it feels like all of these story elements clash and it doesn't create something cohesive or complete complete. But it's just kind of weird that in a Captain America movie, it's actually trying to be an Incredible Hulk movie, and the Incredible Hulk is not in this movie, so it leads to a lot of weird things sticking out in the script. It leads to a lot of the movie feeling like it's unfinished, or feeling like a lot of the themes and ideas that they're going for are not really touched on. It's only surface level stuff. They kind of half-ass it because they have to. This also applies to the villain of the movie. I'm not gonna say who it is, I'm not gonna spoil it, but suffice it to say, I was not a big fan. I did not like the design of the villain, and their motivations were kind of haphazard and all over the place. I also mentioned that the acting was mostly good. There is one actress in this movie, I think her name is Shira Haas, I think is her name. She plays this security person in this movie. She's actually in a lot more of this movie than I would have thought. And unfortunately, she sticks out as easily the worst performance in the movie. I'm not entirely sure what they were going for here. I am left to conclude that they don't like this person and they set her up for failure, or they just couldn't really notice how bad she was, but I noticed, and I'm an audience member. I did not like the way that she delivered her lines. I probably would have put up with a bad performance if her character was at least interesting. Like, her character's just there. I'm not really sure why her character is there. It feels like you could have replaced her with anybody. Hell, replace her with Sharon Carter. As it stands, she's in 2/3 of this movie, and I'm not really sure why. Oh, and if you're waiting on the post-credit scene, don't wait on that shit. The post-credit scene is a big waste of time.
I'm also not gonna get into spoilers, but suffice it to say, I was not a big fan of Captain America and his arc. It feels like a rehash and a retread at different points, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Guys, in the end, this movie's a gigantic mixed bag for me. It feels like it doesn't commit enough to the ideas and the themes that are present and available. It feels like a movie that's split between 3 different story ideas, and as a result, it has an identity crisis thing going on here. It's an entertaining movie, and I don't think it's awful. I walked away just only mildly impressed with some of the things that this movie was going for, and that is a little bit disappointing. Captain America Brave New World was only just sort of okay. I'm gonna leave this one in the Fortress of Solitude. I definitely don't think it's a bad movie. I think you can watch this movie and get some enjoyment out of it, but those are just my honest thoughts on it. Tell me, what is your favorite Captain America movie of all time? Put that in the comment section down below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.